Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Waterman, Esquire. We're here today to talk about the action in last week's week 12 of the NFL, and we'll update our ongoing betting competition. We'll talk a little bit more about what's coming up in this next week. Chiefs are going to be facing. Wait, who are we facing this week?
The Green Bay Packers,
That's right, the Green Bay Packers.
one of the storied franchises of the
Yes,
National.
one of our favorite teams too.
Yes, we love
Uh,
the we love the coach, and
Admonish maybe, I guess, and make fun of their coach and stuff, everything. Anyway,
yeah,
yeah, big matchup against the
and
Packers this
I'm
week.
sure they'll beat the Chiefs now that we've done all this
Yeah, that's usually what happens.
smack
Uh,
talk.
but we'll kick off today's episode though with a little bit of a different topic. Still in the NFL though. Frank Reich was fired this week from Carolina. And what is it? Adam Schefter has predicted that somewhere between 7 and 10 NFL head coaches will lose their jobs this season. Reich was the second pick of
Mhm.
the season. Uh,
After Josh McDaniels from the Raiders.
do you think they could get up to 10 firings, Mike? Is that
10,
you would predict?
10 seems really high. I read that article, and I guess he had said that in the Pat McAfee show. There's some other people that said because there were only 5 coaches fired last year, they were due for a big year this year. But before we went on the air, we kind of went through all of the different coaches that we thought were fired, kind of division by division, and we really only
Fireable, I guess, right?
fireable. Like so, again, more could be fired, but oftentimes fewer of those are fired than actually are. I think both of us thought that Brendan Staley was going to get fired last year, and he wasn't. So we think of him as being, on the block. But he's the only AFC West coach that is in
Hmm.
danger of losing his job. I guess it's possible somebody like Andy Reid might resign or something if they win the Super Bowl, or go out on top. But I don't.
Was
I
is Pierce? Is he's technically like an interim coach? Does that count as firing? I don't think
I
he's
don't think
officially
so. I
named
don't
the
think
head coach. Is that?
that would count a team twice when it because
Yeah.
we already count Daniels, so I don't count Pierce. Um, but so I was thinking Staley, AFC East, maybe Robert Saleh is the most likely, more likely than McDermott or Belichick. It's not certainly not going to be Mike McDaniel.
Like
Maybe
Belichick could be, but he's unlikely to be fired, you would think.
yeah. He's talking about firing. He's not just talking
Right.
about like leaving. So like maybe Vrabel in the South. I don't think any FC North coaches are really likely to be gone. So that's 3 more, and then maybe Matt Eberflus in Chicago and Ron Rivera he's already lost his defensive coordinator in Washington. Maybe a random NFC South coach or two, but those were the 5 names that I could think of that were actually probably so that would make it up to 7. So I think 3 more beyond that would be a lot. So I don't think it'll make it to the 10, but I'm not as I don't have my ear to the inside of the NFL like Adam Schefter does for sure. So who knows? But I would say 7 to 10. If it's 7 to 10, I'd say closer to 7 than 10.
But maybe even not even 7 though.
It's possible not even 7 because I think it's most owners maybe know now that you can't just keep firing coach after coach. Sometimes it takes a year or two for coaches to catch on, and the teams that fire coaches very, very quickly are the ones that typically don't have very good coaches because nobody wants to coach for those teams. So I wonder who will coach for Carolina since Frank Reich was only given 11 games, and or maybe they want Matt Rule back. He hasn't done a great job with Nebraska, but he was doing better than I guess Steve Wilkes was the interim coach who did okay with the Panthers last year. But yeah, I think I think you have to give him at least a full year if it's not unless it's like an Urban Meyer situation.
There are other problems besides just the game time decisions. Yeah, it's not.
Mhm.
Usually, there's more to it than just
Yeah.
that. But then there are owners that are just kind of hot headed and will get angry enough to fire someone on the spot, which has happened before. And then there are other coaches that keep their jobs for forever, despite being fireable for maybe several seasons.
Yeah, that's what it seems like is that way for like Royals managers uh tend to last a while. European soccer coaches are kind of the other end. It seems like they get fired mid-season all the time, and that seems just kind of crazy to me. Sometimes they last a long time, but sometimes they just like, Chelsea will fire a coach, one or two a year. It seems like they just go through them. So it's so yeah,
The
I
NBA seems to be like a revolving door with certain teams, at least anyway. And then there's Popovich, who's been there for
yeah,
10 years now at this point.
years, Steve Kerr, yeah, some of the other guys, some like the more successful Milwaukee guys been around. Can't what's his name? He's been around um for a while now.
Uh,
Uh, um, no, he actually got fired. Or he left. It's Adrian Griffin is the new
hmm.
coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. He replaced was it Budenholzer, right?
Oh yeah, Budenholzer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
who had been
yes.
around for a while, I think, hadn't he? Well, did he quit or did he?
I think he got fired.
I don't follow the.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think the ownership was expecting like a title, and he couldn't deliver the title. I think is how that ended up going. Like they got into the playoffs, they kept losing in the playoffs.
Well, they won in 2020. They won like 2 years ago.
Was he still the coach then, or was he?
Yeah, they won in 2021. He was the coach. So like he had been coach of the year. He I guess he'd only been the coach for 5 seasons, 2018 to
Hmm.
2020. He was the Hawks coach 5 years before that. So I was thinking he was the Bucks coach the whole time. He was the Hawks and then the Bucks coach.
Yeah. So yeah.
Um,
So what led to his firing then?
it says they agreed. Let's see. They I think because they lost to the Heat in the first round
Yeah.
in five. And so then the Heat, of course, made it to the NBA finals. That kind of maybe seems stupid since the Heat ended up almost winning the whole thing. But I don't know. They wanted to. I think they just wanted him to uh, get. I don't know. I think it was somewhat of a controversial, or at least not universally um, loved.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah,
and again, it's like Antetokounmpo was injured.
yeah. So Giannis was hurt, and yeah, it just seems like a
Yeah.
yeah, 50. They were 58 and 24 last year, so I'm not sure why uh, he got fired. Anyway, so yeah, that shows how closely we've been following the NBA. Yeah, I'm glad that this isn't the 3-point line, or it would be just inside the 3-point line. Power hour,
Right.
the least valuable shot in basketball is the one with your toes on the 3-point line.
The longest possible 2-point shot. Yes.
Yes. the
No.
long the long two power hour. What we but should we talk about week 12 of the NFL and the coaches that are still coaching and the teams that are maybe still in the playoff hunt? One of those teams is the Chiefs. They actually had maybe a bounce back game after a couple of rough games or in somewhat close succession. They couldn't catch the ball at all against the Eagles. They lost a winnable game, I think, against Philadelphia, even though the Eagles are the league's best record. The Eagles won a very close game against Buffalo, but this weekend. But the Chiefs ended up overcoming a slow start and rolling somewhat, we could say rolling over over the Las Vegas Raiders, 31-17. What did you think of the Chiefs' victory this week, Andrew?
Well, it started out pretty ugly. I mean, even just before the game, where we found out two of the Chiefs receivers were not going to be available in Tony or
Hardman was,
and Hardman were both out. And Hardman's headed to the IR then I think too. Is that right?
and McKinnon was out too. So
And then McKinnon also, right? So I mean that's a pretty dramatically different game plan with those absences. And then then getting down 14-0 like right off the bat too. It did not look great. But then it was basically all Chiefs from that point on though. The offense
yeah,
woke up a
31-3.
bit. Rashee Rice looked really good.
Yeah, Rice had one drop, but like other than that, he was really good. And they actually passed to him in the second half. Usually Rice, it seems like they give him a few times in the first half and then they forget about him in the second half, and the Chiefs offense sputters. But this time the offense played pretty well in the second half, partly because, well, they gave it to Rice, and Rice, had that great 39-yard touchdown pass from Mahomes that was really a 5-yard pass that he turned into a touchdown. I was reading an article that he had, I think he had 8 catches for 107 yards, something like that. But he had 31 or 33 yards, I can't remember which number exactly, above expected receiving. So he got, he did more with less than most receivers have. And it was the first 100-yard game by any Chiefs wide receiver this season.
Yeah, Kelsey's been over 100
Yeah.
several times, but not a wide receiver. But
Yeah, and he was close to 100 this time. So it was a Kelsey Rice show, which that seemed to do pretty well for the Chiefs. If they still didn't have a ton of yards passing, Mahomes wasn't over 300. He was 298 or something. But part of that was because he had a 12-yard loss, I think, on the first play to Pacheco. Do you remember that pass at the very beginning was, I think they lost. That was the most yards I've ever seen on like a pass play that didn't involve like somebody, like a reverse where they just ran the wrong way or something. I don't think I've ever seen a loss that big on a non-quarterback sack or a disaster play that
yeah,
wasn't
some
just
completely busted play that had a fumble involved or something, something extra to make
yeah.
it.
This was like a completed screen pass where they lost 12 yards somehow,
Yeah.
and but that they recovered from that opening, and they ended up winning. They covered the spread. They're favored by 9.5, so they covered. They won. The over, I think, also hit. They were if you're paying attention to that. But so the Chiefs, yeah, I think the Chiefs played pretty well. They have another road game coming up in Green Bay on Sunday night. We'll talk about that when we talk about week 13. Any other week 12 action that you thought was interesting? We had the Thanksgiving Day games. We had the Black Friday game. We also had a full slate of NFL games over the weekend. I think all 32 teams played.
I think we noticed from the from our betting side of things, at least anyway, that we were pretty surprised that I think all the Thanksgiving Day games ended up being overs, which on the short week it seems like the defenses are somewhat favored, or have like maybe they're a little ahead of the planning, at least anyway, for a short week. Not the case on Thanksgiving though. It's
Yeah, a lot of offensive fireworks. I think we were both surprised that Green Bay beat Detroit. I don't think either were surprised by the results in the Dallas Washington game or the Seattle San Francisco game, but maybe the degree of separation between those teams maybe was surprising, and maybe the number of points scored, but I think the results were not surprising. The Black Friday game I thought was interesting because it involved two. This is interesting. Right before halftime, it involved 2 pick sixes in the final 1 minute of the half, one thrown by each team, and one of those was Mary that was intercepted by the Dolphins. And returned 100 yards for the touchdown, and I thought that was exciting. And I guess the Cowboys got another pick six from Bland, and didn't he get his 5th
That's right. Yeah, set an NFL record for pick sixes in a season.
Well, that's pretty impressive.
Now he
Hopefully,
holds it on his own. I think he was tied with
yeah, he had
some other
five,
people.
four. I'm surprised there were four by one player, but that seems
Yeah.
five is crazy. How because
Well,
it's
that's
not
the
just like
season
your
isn't
skill,
over.
it's of luck and just like where you are when you intercept the pass. And yeah, five um touchdown uh uh passes. Darren Bland has seven. Deron Bland has seven interceptions on the season. Five of them have gone
Wow.
for touchdowns.
Not bad.
Do you know where Deron Bland played college football?
Nope.
He played in two universities in California, both of which are named for the city in which they're located.
Oh, like
Let
UCLA.
me see. No, less successful than that. I will let me see if I can find. Okay, so he ended up finishing his career at the same university that both Derek Carr and his brother David Carr
Ooh.
played for, and also Devontae Adams, probably maybe most famously.
I
And
don't
that was
I
Fred.
I don't
Uh,
watch a lot of college football. I don't know like what
that
most
was
people.
that was Fresno State.
Oh, Fresno State. Oh,
Fresno State, and he also played for Sacramento State.
wow.
Uh, Before that, he was a fifth round draft pick in 2022. So he uh, he's done pretty well. He was at Fresno State, and then after COVID, he transferred to. He was at Sacramento State, and then after COVID, he transferred to Fresno State.
Hmm.
Fresno State, Sacramento State is FCS. Fresno State is regular Division One, and they might be in the new Pac. Who knows how many?
Three or they'll become
If
the
they're
third pack school.
yeah. That's I think they were one of the rumored teams to join
Hmm.
potentially Pac conference. But anyway, um, do you want to talk about our bets of
Sure.
week? Well, so uh, we we made our three locks of the week, each of us. I believe I finished again for maybe the third or fourth consecutive week at 2-1. So I got two out of my three locks. You were 1-2, so I think that took you down to about to 500.
That's right.
On the year. Are you 18-18, and I am now 20-16 in my locks of the week? Should you want to go? Want to go through our locks?
Sure.
You want to start, or you want me to start?
Well, if we want to do losses first, then I better start. So I have to get my
Okay.
extra one out of the way anyway.
Yeah. All right. We'll
Uh,
start.
yeah. So I had my close loss at least anyway. Well, let's do the worst of the losses. For me was I had the Buffalo Philly under in that game, 48 and a half points. I believe it ended up being a complete shootout. It was a 37-34.
37, 34, so 71.
71, many, many points over the 48 and a half. And it was over early, I think, too. Like it wasn't yeah. Anyway, I had the under in that one. Not even close.
And the weather was bad, so you thought, well, maybe the under will hit, but it didn't. It didn't seem to matter. That they were making 59-yard field goals as time expired in the pouring rain. So,
Right.
Nick Elliott, I actually thought the game was over when there were about 25 seconds left in the game, and it was tied, and Buffalo did not try to score at the end of the fourth quarter, and I thought that was going to signal that Buffalo lost.
Was going
And
to lose.
they ended up getting the coin toss, but they only kicked a field goal, and Philadelphia scored a touchdown on the way back. So, but I still think Buffalo should have tried to go for it because they had they have 25 seconds. They had a timeout at least,
Try to win
and
it
they
in
could
regulation.
try to win it in regulation. Like the Chiefs, when they had 13 seconds, they were able to do against Buffalo. I think Buffalo should have tried to do something in 25
Yeah.
seconds, but I don't know. They
Way
didn't
more
do it.
time than 13.
Yeah, it's almost twice as many as those of us doing the math at home.
Yes. Yes.
Speaking of doing the math at home, I had also predicted an under and that was the Green Bay Detroit Thanksgiving Day game. I had, like you, Dr. Scap, I thought, okay, it's Thanksgiving, it's Thursday. I think Detroit's a pretty good team. I don't think Green Bay's a very good team, so I think Detroit might score a lot of points. I didn't see Green Bay scoring a lot of points, but Green Bay ends up scoring 29 and beating Detroit outright. So it's 29-22. It was a 51 points total. It was over under was 46.5. So it wasn't that far over, but it was still over, and I missed that one. I had pretty good under 46.5, but it went over to 51.
Close, yeah, just one extra
touch
more, but yeah, maybe the Packers could have just kicked a field goal instead of scoring a touchdown, just to keep it for you under. But no, the field goal was over anyway.
A field goal would have just kept it slightly closer. They would have needed a touchdown taken off the board one way or the other, and that didn't. But yeah, so that was my only loss. So I'm feeling pretty good. You had one more loss, however, bringing you crashing back to earth.
Yeah, so between the two of us, we had 3 unders. All of them failed. So my second pick was also an under in the San Francisco Seattle game. Very, very close on this one. It was 43.5 points was the line. And it was 30 or 44 points was the final. 37-17.
It was 31 to 13.
31-13. 31-13. That's it.
Yeah.
And so San Francisco got a touchdown like midway through the fourth quarter that ensured that they would keep the spread, at least anyway, cover that. But I was kind of keeping my fingers crossed that they would miss the extra point, because that would be enough to keep it on the under. But no, that was not
they missed the extra point.
Yeah.
You had about 2% chance of the extra point going maybe 3% now with a longer field goal, but still, yeah. No, they missed that one. Yeah, so it seemed like a lot of games went over this week. Over, I think, was the correct bet on
9 of the games.
9 out of 16. I got one of those overs correct for my lone over under bet of my locks of the week, and that was the Cleveland Denver game. I predicted over 35.5 points, and Denver won that game 29-12. They almost covered that by themselves. Of course, Cleveland didn't score very many points to help, but they still got enough. They got up to 41 points. Denver has won, I think, 5 in a row now, so they're looking pretty good. I'm actually involving Denver in one of my picks for week 13, so keep an eye out or an ear out for that one. But yeah, Cleveland, Denver over 35.5. They got up to 41, so it took a little while though. That was a low scoring game all the way through, and I was a little bit worried. But in the second half, Denver started to pull away, and they pushed it over. How about your victory of the week, Dr. Scout?
My lone victory was in the Baltimore Chargers game. Baltimore was favored by 4 points. It was not looking good late in the game, but Baltimore did score a late touchdown where they probably could have, slid or taken a knee near the goal line just to like run the clock out, but they actually went into the end zone and had that extra touchdown, gave them a 20-10 victory, covering that 4-point spread.
Yeah, Zay Flowers did not slide as Jared McKinnon or Patrick Mahomes have demonstrated that they like to do when the game is basically out of hand, but they don't want to make it so that there's a 1/10% possibility that the other team might score 2 touchdowns in quick succession to win the game, rather than just play it, kind of try to thread the needle and have the ball as time expires, or make the winning kick as time expires. But
the gentlemanly finish, as we talked.
The Andy Reid gentlemanly home stretch, the ARG, that causes agita for bettors from coast to coast.
Yes.
speaking of a team that causes agita, at least for you, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've been one of your frustrating teams this year. They've been one of my good bets this year more often than not. And Pittsburgh, I had favored -1.5 over Cincinnati. Cincinnati, of course, does not have Joe Burrow playing quarterback, and they fired their offensive coordinator. And the offense actually looked better supposedly, but this week, but they still only scored 16 points. So, yeah, so they won 16-10 over Cincinnati. So they won by 6. So 4.5 point cushion on my Pittsburgh -1.5.
I've given up trying to bet against them. So I just blanketly bet on Pittsburgh and, blindly follow the lack of logic to get the Pittsburgh victories. And it seems to work now. So I don't know. It still makes no sense, but I
Yeah,
enjoy it. I don't want to keep losing money on, these fake bets that we're making. I don't want to lose more fake money, Mike. So I've joined them.
Want to save face and money by betting on them. Sitting at 7-4, so they're solidly playoff contention. Pittsburgh Steelers, which I don't think of them as being a very good team. They remind me of a little bit of that team that squeaked into the number 7 seed a couple of years ago, and the Chiefs rolled like 2 weeks in, or almost 2 weeks in. It was like 2 out of 3 weeks. The Chiefs won by like 41-7 games against Pittsburgh. That I think this is the kind of team Pittsburgh has. Maybe their defense is a little better, but I think their offense is actually a little bit worse because they don't have Ben Roethlisberger. Even the desiccated husk of Ben Roethlisberger might be have more of a powerful offense than the current juicy body of Kenny Pickett. But is that the opposite of a desiccated husk?
I think so. Well, we were looking at that graphic about the assembling the worst quarterback from different parts of when Kenny Pickett was featured in that image, was he not?
I think so. I'm gonna check that picture. Yeah, it was.
It was the arm, Kenny Pickett, or the
it was
hand.
Mac Jones's arm. No, there's no Kenny Pickett in there.
Kenny Pickett didn't even make it.
Oh, I know it's hand size. Kenny Pickett's hand size.
Yeah, it was hand size. Yeah.
There's Joshua Dobbs' hair. Bryce Young's regular size. Will Levis's coffee with mayonnaise. Patrick Mahomes' and it was Mac Jones's arm. Zach Wilson overall was the funniest one, I thought. Or Zach Wilson, but bumped down to number 3 in favor of Tim Boyle as the new starting quarterback for the Jets, who did not do any better than Zach Wilson does. So, but
yeah. So what's the difference?
Kenny Pickett is maybe just doing slightly better than Zach Wilson, and but his team has been winning some games, so he's stayed in control of the starting position in Pittsburgh. So, but he's doing well enough for me to bet on him every once in a while, or maybe more than once in a while. And I'm not going to do it this week. I think the spread's too big for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh likes to keep the games close, and I'm a little nervous about games where they're favored by a good deal. So they're favored by 5.5 going in.
But the money line, you're gonna take them on the money line.
Probably, but I think they probably only win by a field goal. So I'm gonna yeah. Pittsburgh is playing at home against Arizona. They're favored by 5.5, but I'm a little worried. So I would just I'm gonna steer clear from that one as part of my locks of the week. In terms of locks of the week, I was +1 again. So I'm up to 20-16 plus $400. You are even at 18-18. Our big boards had a different story, of course, and it seems to be our trend is where you win money, I lose money, and that's been the way it's been this season. What is the secret of your volume success, Dr. Scaff?
Apparently, I am not sure what it is. It seems like, the games that I pick, obviously went the correct way. And the games that I, didn't win the bets, that was the team, one of those teams did something wrong, I think is pretty much what it comes down to. So
If only you could
have a good
sort
hand.
out. Yeah, if only you could sort out the ones you're positive on, and you're gonna from the ones that you
Exactly.
are a better way, you'd be really cleaning up, because if you can get rid of those losses and get more of the wins, you'd really be sitting pretty. But at least I can hang my hat so far on that I tend to know what games I know better than
Your confidence picks are follow the logic
yeah.
that you're using, I guess, right? Is what it is.
Yeah, it's not great. I'm not killing it, but at least I'm winning slightly most weeks now. So, and I've built a little bit of a cushion. So if I have an 0-3 week, I'll still be over 500 on the season. So I just want to keep building as
Yeah.
the season on. Maybe
2-1s are fine, right? That's yeah.
yeah,
Just keep doing that, and you'll be in good shape.
I will be in good shape. So if I keep getting 2/3 of my bets right, I will be in good shape, which is
Now
hard.
you got to figure out how to, make some of these other picks with the same confidence level. Is what it is.
Yeah, or just bet more heavily on the big ones,
Yeah.
and then
Maybe yeah. So maybe for next season we'll have to try like, oh, we just have a set dollar amount that we have to bet, and not on all of the games, but you can put it where you want to put it.
yeah.
Something like that. Like say you're going to bet $4,800 on the week, but you don't have to put $100 on each category. You can put it all 4,800 on one game if you want, or
Ooh, yeah, that makes it even more complicated. But we'll maybe we can talk about that in the off season.
yes. But it might be better for the confidence play.
Mm-hmm. It might
If
be.
your strategy seems to be working, and that may be more of like what you would actually bet if you were going to really start betting.
Yeah, yeah.
You would
I
only
would.
make a few bets on games that you're very confident in, and I should just be
Yeah,
making volume bets because it seems to be working well for me.
yeah.
Because
I don't think
yeah,
I have.
I'm still positive on this. I'm like almost $2,600 on the season now. So with making all of the bets, but
Yeah, you are 30 almost. You're 3,200 something dollars on the season. I am minus 6,600 on the season. So we have about a $10,000 difference so far.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
seasons.
that's a big difference.
Yeah, yeah. So we can in the when we get to the playoffs, we can start experimenting a little more, because we do a little bit more experimentation when it comes to betting in the playoffs when there are fewer games. So we can start figuring out some other strategies
Well,
coming up.
I think you were looking at the week 13 stuff. Those
Oh,
aren't those numbers aren't right yet.
oh, I'm looking ahead.
Yeah,
I'm predicting
the
the
20
future.
2576 is what I'm at right now.
Oh, okay.
You're minus 6,400, Mike.
Minus 6,400. Okay. I'm only
Yikes.
minus 6,400. Okay. That's better than I could be.
That's like an eight, almost a $9,000 spread between
Only a
us.
$9,000 difference right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
fortunately. Um, it's my math. My math's about as good as the Royals, who had their stadium value. At least maybe it was Jackson County that calculated the value of the expenses of the stadium, about 1.2 billion. It would cost 1.2 billion dollars less than they originally thought
Hmm.
on the high-end estimate if they built this new downtown stadium. But um, anyway, there was news.
Yeah, no, I know additional progress though. I don't think on any of the decision making from what I've heard anyway.
No, and they haven't had the lottery yet for the draft, so there's really, and they haven't signed any free agents that I've noticed this past week. So it seems like it's really a cold stove right now for the Royals.
Wasn't the winter meetings are this weekend maybe, or is it coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's coming up soon.
'Cause I think the actual like lottery is part of that winter meeting. And so I think the draft lottery will take place 1 week from when this is being recorded
Yeah,
now. So
the winter meetings are in Nashville. Like they've been a lot in Nashville. Maybe they're always in Nashville. December 4th through the 7th.
yeah.
Uh, basically a week from this airing.
Yes.
It'll end.
So when we record next week's episode, we should know where the Royals will be picking.
Yes.
I think by odds, they should be in the top 3.
1, 2, or 3, hopefully. Hopefully
Do you,
1.
do you think they'll land inside the lottery at all? So top 6 picks. Do you think they'll get a top 6 pick?
Probably a top 6 pick. I would say they're not going to get as good a pick as they deserve, and they aren't good. So they I think they were in the second.
They
Were
didn't
they the
last
second?
year. I think they were supposed to get 4, and they were outside the lottery.
Yeah.
They picked 8th, I think,
So this I think they're
last
supposed to.
year, which was like a few months ago.
So they're supposed to be second. This ideally they would be second. So they'll probably get like 5th or something, or
Yeah.
If they got the first pick, that would be. I don't even know I don't even know if the draft is deep at the top, or if it's deep towards the later first round, middle, or if it's there's like one guy that is going to be the big prospect, and
Yeah.
and so whatever it is, the Royals will be probably be one after the can't miss prospects,
Or they would skip over the can't miss to get a guy they think that would sign with them instead of right.
Yes, the Bubba Starling draft, but that one was the local prospect. They couldn't really pass up on him, and it would have been nice to get Anthony Rendon, but they ended up with Bubba.
Yeah, they're basically the same player
Yes.
at this point, I guess, right?
Are they both retired now? Rendon is he still kicking it? Isn't
I
he?
think he's around. I think he's dealing with a lot more injuries now. I don't think he's playing full seasons at this point. But
yeah, he's
because he ended up in with the Angels, I think, and then
yeah, he only had a point. So he only had 0.1 more WAR this year than Bubba Starling did. He was like 2 home runs, 148 at bats, 236 batting average. He actually had a 361 on base percentage with that 236 batting average.
pretty good.
But yeah, since he joined the Angels, he's really been injured. He hasn't played more than 58 games since 2019. So I guess in 2020 he played 52 games, which was basically a full COVID season. 2021,
Right.
2021 58, 2022 47, 2023 43. So he's playing fewer games every year. So he's going to be on pace for about 37 games next year. But
He had a really good excuse for one of those seasons why he only played in the 50 max games. Those because he only played 50-ish games, right?
He was 10th in the MVP voting in 2020 for the Angels. But yeah, he had several seasons in a row where he had 40 plus home runs and things like that. So he was when they won the World Series in Washington in 2019, he had 34 home runs, 126 RBIs, 44 doubles, 1010 OPS. So yeah, pretty good. But yeah, he's been oft injured since then. Speaking of oft, maybe not oft injured, but speaking of prominently injured, did you hear who the Arkansas Razorbacks hired as their new offensive coordinator under head coach Sam Pittman next year? It's a return of a prodigal son.
When you sent the message, I just assumed it was going to be one of the recently fired NFL coaches that was going to be joining them, or somebody that I hadn't heard had been fired yet. Like I was hoping that was going to be like a Nathaniel Hackett just to like irk you, but
yes,
turns out it's not. It is yes, prodigal son.
Bobby Petrino coming back to Arkansas really means, I guess, they're desperate to have somebody. He had been, I think, the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M recently. He had been the head coach at Missouri State and maybe Louis and a couple other places. But yeah, he's now the back in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Hopefully, not riding anymore motor scooters with illicit young love interests on the back.
So do you think that Arkansas is going to lean into, like, just to make sure whatever his previous indiscretions are just like out in public to begin with, or do you think it's going to be like there's like a really heavily, like out clauses in his contract that they can, remove him very quickly if something, similar pops up from what they've already seen in the past?
I would guess he probably has a short leash, but I'm hoping that there'll be a lot of neck braces that appear on the campus at the football games
Yes.
in support of Petrino.
Yes.
The neck brace with kind of the road rash face that he had when he had that press conference after his motorcycle accident. But that was the last time Arkansas was consistently good. Was the early aughts, well, not the early aughts, the early teens with Coach Petrino. But maybe they can recapture some of that magic with Petrino as the offensive coordinator.
That press conference was one of the greatest visuals like I've ever seen on TV. Like that neck brace should be in a Hall of Fame somewhere. Like it should be on display. It was
It should.
fantastic. It was
I think
absolutely.
it should be in the. It should be at least in the Arkansas Hall of Fame in the at the stadium
Yeah.
at Razorback Stadium, or maybe like usually now like colleges, like there's a big defensive play, they give the defensive player like the big lock or the big chain or the WWE belt to wear.
Yes.
Maybe
Right.
on offense they'll give the neck brace to somebody who makes a big catch or something like that, or maybe somebody who delivers a big hit or a block, maybe the neck brace. I think
Absolutely.
I
You
think
need
that
to
would be
start
fun.
lobbying the school. I mean, that's your alma mater, right? So you've got an in there. They should listen to you, right?
Yeah, I haven't given any to the alumni association
Well, you
in
can
many years.
give them, if you don't want to give to them financially, you can at least give to them, you know, through this, like your idea.
Yeah, they can make a lot of money. They can make a lot of money from stuff like that. So that's financially I would be helping them
Yeah.
by giving them this sort of.
Not through direct donation, but through the gift of your wisdom, Mike. That's
Mhm.
yeah.
Speaking of our wisdom, do you want to move on to week 13 and talk about our prediction?
Let's do it.
So week 13 is coming up. Only 5 more weeks after that in the NFL season. The playoff race is starting to shape up. Looks like we know at least some of those teams are going to be, but some of the teams, who knows what will shake out. But
Well, no
are
one's
there?
officially taken a playoff spot yet, have they?
No, although the Eagles are probably the closest to
Well,
clinching.
they should be very close.
They have 10 wins, so they probably their magic number is probably one, I would guess at this point if they haven't clinched already.
It's got to be close, yeah.
But since it says 10-1, so if they have 11, I don't think there'll be enough NFC teams that can get to 11 games and uh, beat the Eagles. But um, do you have any insight? Should we talk about our bets for week 13 first, or should we talk about? Uh,
What do you think? What are you thinking about the Chiefs Packers game?
okay, the Chiefs are playing at Lambeau Field on Sunday night. I don't know what the weather is going to be like. Is it going to be really cold? It's been cold this past couple days here in Maryland, but I think the weather's supposed to warm up a little bit. So I think it's probably going to be cold, but not freezing
It's
cold. But
35, cloudy, but not crazy though. That's
yeah,
the
not crazy.
projected weather as of now.
I like the Chiefs to continue their winning ways probably, and maybe continue their hot streak on. No, you can call it a streak, but try to maintain a hot streak
Yes.
on offense by getting the ball to Rice more, by keeping by at least giving another option besides Kelsey in the passing game. And so if they can keep catching passes, maybe Tony might be back, maybe McKinnon will be back next week, and that can help the offense even a little bit more, and maybe transition them out of the Justin Watson MVS kind of world. Sky Moore actually looked pretty good last week too, so maybe those other receivers that we want to step up can start stepping up. And I think maybe Green Bay had a great week last week and against against the Lions on Thanksgiving, but maybe they'll come crashing back to earth against a tough Chiefs team, tough Chiefs defense. That's my hope anyway. That's actually how about you? What do you think of what are the Chiefs? What do you think of the Chiefs and the Packers next week?
Well, I think that, yeah, I think maybe this last week, like having some of those guys, not being in the game, may have helped them like simplify the offense just a little bit, where it's, maybe now they can use this as like a stepping stone where they can start adding a few things, but not all at once anyway, or trying to like, have too many options almost. Seemed like maybe what part of the problem was.
You're really trying to spread the ball out to everybody, and then like having everybody play a lot of snaps and like not allowing the hot hand to kind of stay in. Like Rice, like we said the last time, it seemed like Rice played a lot in the first half and then was just gone in the second half. And this time he was there in both halves, and it really seemed to
prominently featured, at least anyway.
Yeah, he was getting the ball, and maybe Mahomes trusts him more now.
Yeah, I think I both were, kind of hoping that he will end up like emerging as that number one receiver type, and then if he can do that, then that may like bring Valdez-Scantling in to being more important, as the 2 or 3 receiver then, and not having to like draw like that number one defensive back on like every type of play, at least anyway. So like, he doesn't even get that many looks in typical games. So maybe now if Rice, can take that kind of one spot, maybe he'll start drawing some of the tougher defenders, and maybe that will mean Valdez-Scantling will be open more often too. So that's, could be a really good thing if Rice does emerge as that guy.
Or it could allow Tony to kind of be that kind of odd gadget playmaker kind of guy that we know he could be. He really started showing some of that against Philadelphia again, but unfortunately, it seems like he's sort of fragile and gets injured a lot. So maybe he's like McKinnon, kind of a late season playoff kind of guy that works better. But yeah, I think having a solid number 2 target with Rice maybe can help. Yeah, Sky Moore or Valdez-Scantling, maybe Richie James coming back can do a little bit more. So actually, if you want to talk about our bets, my first bet of the week was going to be the Chiefs are favored by 6.5 points in Lambeau Field against the Packers. And I don't know if I've bet on the Chiefs at all this year. It's one of my locks of the week, but I decided this week to change my tune, and I thought I'd pick Kansas City minus 6.5. I think the Chiefs will win by at least a touchdown against the Packers. I think they're trying to get their offense going. I think Matt Nagy's probably I don't know if he's feeling the hot seat a little bit, but he's probably feeling the ire of Chiefs fans and maybe the front office. So I think that the Chiefs will come out and score a lot of points. And the defense has been great all season, even though they let a couple of early touchdowns in against the Raiders. They allowed that one big play to Jacobs on the run. He's a great running back, so it's not really that. You'll get, if you allow one or two big plays a game, that's and kind of limit it to that. That's not too bad. And so the Chiefs defense has been good every game basically this year. So I think they'll be good again against Green Bay. So I like them to I like them at minus 6.5. How about you, Dr. Scott? Do you have a first lock of the week that you want to talk about?
Well, so last week I was betting unders, and I'm afraid to go back to that again. So I'm not betting to bet any unders this week, I think so. But the first game I picked, at least anyway, is on a spread. I've got Detroit minus 4.5 at New Orleans. So I'm expecting Detroit to bounce back after their loss to the Packers against a New Orleans team that doesn't seem like they really quite know what they're doing still. And it's a relatively close spread, at least anyway, for a game. It doesn't seem like New Orleans is really, matching up well, I don't think, with Detroit. So I expect Detroit to cover that 4.5 point spread.
And it's a road game, but it's a road game from a dome team to another dome team, so maybe
Yeah.
that's not as big of a intimidation kind of difference. Like, it can get pretty loud in the Superdome, but Detroit knows how to play in a dome. And they play in a dome, half their games already. So maybe it's not as I wonder what if dome team. This is maybe something we could look into. Do dome teams play better against fellow dome teams when they're at home, or do they play better against teams that play outdoors?
Yeah.
Uh,
Road domes. They just play well in domes and not outdoors at all.
yeah, I would say outdoor teams play less well in the dome than indoor teams usually, but I don't know. Well, that's something we could take a look
They should
at.
play half of the game in a dome, other half of the game outside, just to see what the advantage is, like in every condition, right?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just agree with that, Dr. Scaff. You can think of the logistics on your own, and I guess some of these stadiums they can have them open half the game and then
Yeah,
close it the game. But these roofs that open and close, they seem to be very slow moving though, right? They don't seem to be like
right.
a roof, like a zip line kind of thing. It's not like rolling up your window and putting it down. It's much
Yeah.
more uh
It's like a
thought.
half a day process to move some of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, but so you like the Detroit, the Domers on the road against their fellow Domers in
Yes.
North 4.5 or more. I have another. I'm betting. So maybe going along with that, I'm betting against a dome team on the road in an outdoor stadium this week. So I am. So I like this is this is a game that I do not want to watch probably, but if it's
Mm.
on, I guess I would watch it. This is the Jets Atlanta game. I think their over under is 34 points. The Jets are 3-point underdogs at home against the Falcons, which is surprising to me. I like the Jets actually probably to win outright against Atlanta. I don't think Atlanta's very good. I don't think they have a good quarterback. I don't think their offense is that strong. Bijan Robinson's a good running back. I guess Drake London's a good receiver, but they don't have a real, Ritter is not a great quarterback. I think the Jets defense is their strong suit. So I think the Jets defense can contain the Falcons offense. And I think the Falcons defense is, you know, okay, but I think the Jets can at least keep it close. I don't know. I don't know about the over under in that game, but I do like the Jets to keep it at least close and maybe to win, eke out a win. So they're +3. So I'm taking the Jets +3 at home in MetLife Stadium in the Meadowlands against the Falcons.
Yeah, I'd fully expect this to be like a 12-6 all field goal type game, really, is what it really seems like. It's probably not going to be a fun one to watch if you're a fan of offense.
No, no, or is a fan of good football in general, but
Do you like being entertained? Don't watch this game.
we might. What's the over under on Achilles tendon tears in this week at MetLife Stadium? It seems like there's one. They had one last week. Jalen Phillips for the Dolphins. You could see his Achilles tendon
Ooh,
just kind of. You can see the back of his calf kind of ripple
yeah,
So it's. I was reading an article that a lot of the players, the field might cost like the Jets and the Giants free agents because it's seen as an injury trap, and it's one of those things. Again, shouldn't the NFL just require teams to have natural grass fields, especially in an outdoor stadium?
yeah.
You should be able to have a grass field.
There's no
Although
real reason for it.
I guess the grass fields sometimes are a problem, like in the Super Bowl when it was a little bit slippery. But I think at least if you slip and trip, usually you're not going to tear something the way you do it
Yeah.
on these artificial
But
surfaces.
that one year with the slick field, wasn't that like the field was like planted like on a deck or something that was like placed on the field like a day or two before the
Yeah, but they have those fields. I think it was overwatered too, but they have that there was a field just like that they used in Las Vegas that they played, and I didn't notice any problems with the Chiefs Raiders slipping or anything like that. So
Yeah.
it may have been more a problem with that particular field than the technique with
Mm.
itself. But um, yeah, so I would like to see all the games on grass, but
Yeah,
I
this
guess
would
the NFL
make more
owners
sense.
are not having that. Especially, yeah, outdoor stadiums, especially. So I'm glad the Chiefs switched to Arrowhead to grass. Pretty much back when it was that back when like Joe Montana was playing. I think that was their first year. I guess second year here. I think it was the first grass year, or maybe it was the first Steve Bono year, like 94, 90, 95 was the first grass. When I was a kid, I kind of liked the turf because it looked kind of clean on TV and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
didn't know mud, but as I got older, I've grown to appreciate the mud and the muck and the grass stains and the natural conditions much more.
We like seeing the player like stand up from like a having just been tackled and then like has like the turf like stuck in like the top of the face mask and they have to like pick that out.
Yeah, it's a classic look. A
Yeah,
classic look.
yeah, it's good.
Is your how about your second bet? Is it going to be in a classic?
I don't know about a classic. My third pick might be a classic, but the second pick, I went with another road favorite. I've got Miami -9.5 at Washington Commanders, I guess that are somewhat in disarray now. I think too, right? Are they?
Yeah,
Uh,
Jack Del Rio, the defensive coordinator, was fired. I think Ron Rivera is going to call the defense now himself, so it's going to be Bieniemy and Rivera calling the plays on both sides of the ball. Do you think
yeah.
that's going to make?
I don't know if that's going to make any difference. They gave up a lot of points last week, and I don't. I mean, the coordinator isn't out on the field, so I don't know how that's really going to make that much of a difference. You're not really going to fix the personnel issues that are there in a week against a team that's actually pretty good and more innovative kind of offense is like Miami has. So
Yeah, they traded their best two defensive players away, Sweat and Young. So, like, what do they expect the defensive? What's the defensive coordinator supposed to do without without the two best defensive ends to at least, kind of contain the edge and or to rush the passer? It seems, yeah, that's
um,
it was a recipe for disaster. I think when they traded those guys, I don't. They were still sort of in the playoff hunt, but I think after that, it seems like they're tanking. And so if they're tanking, why fire a guy? Maybe he didn't want to tank. I don't know, but you would want. I think it's Rivera trying to keep his job more than anything else. Um,
yeah. Well, he's been a little on the hot seat, at least anyway, for
for a while, yeah.
not just the last week. This is an ongoing sort of issue.
So it's 9.5. Is that the spread?
Nine, it's one of the bigger spreads that I picked. Have ever picked, I think, actually for a lock at least anyway. But I like this one. I think this week.
Yeah, Miami not -9.5. They were also -9.5 last week, I think, against the Jets, and they ended up covering that too. So Miami's one of those teams that does not mind running up the score or scoring late or having a big win. They're not quite, the Andy Reid gentleman that the Chiefs are, of course. Speaking of the Chiefs, I'm going to continue my my so I bet on the Chiefs for my first bet. I'm also going to bet on one of the Chiefs' big rivals for my last bet this week. The Denver Broncos are playing at Houston against the Texans on Sunday afternoon, and they are 3.5 point underdogs on the road. I think that is a number that's a little bit high. I like. I think Denver on a neutral field is probably a better team than Houston. And so I was surprised by the 3.5 point spread. Maybe I would have thought 1.5 might have been the right number, especially. So I think Denver can at least keep it within a field goal of Houston. And I would say at Denver, I would pick Denver probably to win outright against Houston. Houston's been a feel good story this year, and CJ Stroud's had a great year, but his first year. But I think the Broncos have won 5 straight. Russell Wilson has been solid. The defense has been very good. uh, the last several weeks, ever since that Miami debacle. Really, they've started to keep things together. So I think I like Denver plus 3.5 at Houston.
Yeah, this should be a good test for Stroud. I think he's had a couple of pretty good games pretty recently, but I don't think those were against very good defenses.
Yeah, Jacksonville's defense was pretty good,
Pretty
okay,
good.
but
Yeah.
they didn't beat Jacksonville. So, and I don't think I think Jacksonville's a good team, but I don't think they're an outstanding
He did
team.
score 30 points against Cincinnati in week 10.
Mm-hmm. Cincinnati has a good defense, but also I think they were probably a little bit demoralized without Burrow
I think so. I
uh,
think that was the week that he went down.
down. Yeah.
So yeah. So I mean, this is a really good test then for Stroud. I mean, it'd be nice to see him play well and beat Denver, just because I think just in general, you and I are not fans of the Broncos, being lifelong Chiefs fans. But they're on a hot streak though, so it's kind of hard to pick against them, I would think too.
Mm-hmm.
Was it five in a row? Is that right?
Won 5 in a row. Yeah.
Yeah. And unlikely some of those games too. So that's
Yeah. The Buffalo game it was most unlikely with that 12 man on the field last second field goal that went awry, but then we were able to kick again a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I like Buffalo. I mean, I like Denver to keep it close and maybe win outright against Houston in Houston. I think your last pick might have been with one of the teams that I just mentioned, Dr. Scaff. What is your last?
well, my last
Uh,
pick's probably the game of the week, maybe one of the top games of the season, even with the matchups. Probably the number one and number two teams, maybe in the entire NFL right now, but at least in the NFC, San Francisco at Philly. Um,
mm,
I'm not sure how I'm going to pick this game. I think to actually on the spread right now. I think San Francisco is favored by 3 on the road, which is a little
road, which
surprising.
I was surprised about that too. But maybe I'm sure the bettors know something that in the bookies know something that we don't, or they're just their models just have it that San Francisco is a better team. Uh, on a neutral field, maybe almost a 6 point better team than the Eagles. The Eagles have won a lot of close games lately, but maybe they've been a little bit more lucky than good, even. So they could have easily lost to Buffalo. They could have easily lost to the Chiefs without some fortunate, maybe fortune following them. So yeah, but you're not betting on the spread. What you going with the over under? What do you like? What do you like, Dr.
Well,
Scaff?
yeah, I think
Over?
I'm looking at the over in this game, and the line set at 46 and a half. Last week's game, Philly Buffalo is kind of a similar matchup, at least anyway. Philly was able to put up quite a few points against a strong-ish at least defense in Buffalo, but they gave up a lot of points too to like maybe not the best of the offenses in the league, at least as of right now. San Francisco has been rolling offensively. Their defense is pretty strong though too. I could see this turns into another type of shootout. So I'm going to take the over in this one. 46 and a half points.
46.5. And I think 28-24 game is certainly uh within possibility, and that would get you up to 52. So yeah, I think something like that, high up mid to upper 20s for both teams,
Wow.
will get you over. So I like the over there too a little bit. I don't it's not I don't like enough to make it one of my locks, but and I think that's a decent bet, Dr. Scaff.
Just as a reminder, though, the Buffalo Philly game we hit 71, I think, in the just a week ago, or for us 2 days ago.
Yes. Yes. And that was in bad weather. So you think, well, maybe the weather won't be as bad, and they can score even more points. Yeah, San Francisco has a good offense. They have a good defense, but they can allow a decent number of points too. And even if one of the 46 and a half is such that, if like, one of the teams scores 35,
Hmm.
I think possible. The only, that you just need 2 touchdowns from the other team, and that'll cover. So, um, yeah, I don't I kind of like that pick as well, which doesn't necessarily bode well for you, Dr. Scaff, since
So, no, well, I mean, maybe it does because if you agree with it, then
oh well, for yeah,
your locks have done well. But it's not one of your locks though either. So,
yeah, it's one of my
you know,
it's one of it's just on the board for me, but we'll see how the board does. Do we have anything else we want to talk about for this week, or should we wrap up?
what is the Monday night matchup this week? Is
The
it
Monday night matchup
oh, it's
is
a Cincinnati Jacksonville game?
Cincinnati Jacksonville. I was thinking you at one point you were thinking of betting Cincinnati Jacksonville.
Hmm.
And thought maybe that game a few weeks ago looked like a really great game, but with Burrow out, it's lost a lot of its luster. But now Jacksonville's favored by 7.5 points. Yeah, I don't know if I like Jacksonville to cover, but I don't think Cincinnati's going to win. So I haven't decided what I like for that game. Have you? Do you think you have a lean one way or the other Monday night?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Jacksonville on the spread, but not enough to make it one of my locks either. So like, that's we'll have to see how we finalize these as the line moves in the next couple days before we make our official picks, at least anyway, on the big board.
Yeah, the big board that's still waiting for us, but our locks of the week are in, and they are locked in. And I'm feeling confident. Maybe I should maybe say I'm not feeling confident, and maybe that'll keep me from being jinxed by my
Too cocky.
over, overconfident, cocky uh, uh, um, attitude. It reminds me of that line, one of my favorite lines from Robin Hood Men in Tights. They talk about a young Dave Chappelle. He is headstrong and cocksure, or is it the other way around? and and
Nice.
and so I don't want to appear overly cocksure or headstrong in on these picks. So we'll just leave it at that. Anything else you'd like to add, Dr. Scott?
Well, because you mentioned that, where does that rank in your Mel Brooks films hierarchy? Is that
I like Robin Hood Men in Tights. It is the problem with Robin Hood Men in Tights is too topical. It is so it dates itself to the mid 1990s a little
yeah,
bit too much. There's a lot of
like
like
with the
Reebok
Reebok pumps and the
Reebok pump jokes and things like that.
yeah.
The whoop whoop whoop, the kind of Arsenio Hall whooping. It's very dated. So I actually prefer of the 90s Mel Brooks, I actually prefer Dracula Dead and Loving It to I think it holds up better on later viewings. Maybe at the time I would have liked Robin Hood Men in Tights a little bit better, but also it's also too much of a parody of the Kevin Costner Robin Hood, which I think it
Was
was
almost
also
a parody itself.
yeah. So I like Dracula Dead and Loving It. It's a little less topical humor. That's I think also one of the problems with Spaceballs. It was too topical.
Hmm.
I think Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles, those like the top really top Mel Brooks movies are a little are more the jokes are a little more timeless. And so that's why I like Dracula Dead and Loving It. So I actually have it, Dracula Dead and Loving It is one of my top three Mel Brooks movies, which is very I think probably surprising for people. It would be my number one would probably be Young Frankenstein,
Yeah.
and then maybe two is actually battling between Blazing Saddles is better, but I for some reason I really love Leslie Nielsen, so I like his Dracula.
Yeah.
So I know that Dracula Dead and Loving is not as good as Blazing Saddles, but it's one of those that I kind of like um, personally on a level. So it's an irrational like. Do you have a favorite Mel Brooks?
I've always been a huge Spaceballs fan though because of like the Star Wars movies and then the parody of that anyway. So it really works for me at least anyway. So at one point I had most of that movie memorized. I think it,
I haven't seen
that was one
Spaceballs.
of those movies of my childhood that was watched
We
on
used to watch
repeat.
that. We used to watch that together quite a bit. Yeah, that was. It wasn't as frequently as we watched Major League or
Maybe the
um,
Fletch movies or
Flash movies. We watched a lot. Yeah, there were a few of those that we watched. Yeah,
yes.
over and over. So, Indiana Jones we watched a lot
Oh
too.
yeah. I think I had Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade on VHS. And so that was like one of the first like VHS movies I think we had. So it's like that was one of those that got like burned.
Yes,
It was like the tape ended up being ruined because of how many times it was rewound and then watched and rewound and watched. Yes.
that's why they sold those little rewinders to keep the. I was more to save the wear and tear on the VCR rather than
On the actual VCR device, yeah.
yeah. At least that's what they said it was for.
Yeah.
Then VCRs became cheap enough that they were probably as cheap as the rewinders.
Yeah. You didn't just manually rewind it like with your finger or
Yeah, like a marker or something. Yeah,
yeah,
like a pencil with it, like an audio cassette.
right.
Um, Speaking of
Oh, the
rewinding,
old days.
speaking of rewinding, maybe we would want to rewind and do this episode a little bit better. But I think it turned out.
We're stuck
Uh,
with it.
I think we're stuck with it. I think it turned out okay though. I have maybe we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Um, as always, I am Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff, no Esquire. We are the Warning Track Power Hour. Please like and subscribe to our podcast or our YouTube channel. And we thank you for your viewership, your listenership. Good luck to your teams this week. Good luck on your bets this week if you're making them. And please tune in next time for another exciting episode of the One Trick Power Hour. And as always, Dr. Scaff and I will wish you a good day.